Some secrets are too heavy for a single file. Over the past few weeks, Mika and Aya have faced three of the most dangerous manifestations in the Hyakki Yagyō archives, from the lethal webs of the Jorōgumo to the drowning grief of the Ame-Onna, and finally, the mechanical nightmare of the Kasha. All of them were fueled by one thing: the fragments of the killing stone. Tonight, we bring you the complete chronological investigation of these three cases. Watch how the patterns emerge, and how a hidden organization began to step out of the shadows. Before we dive back into the darkness, make sure to like this video and subscribe. We are piecing together a ritual that was never meant to be completed. Your support is the only thing keeping these archives open. Now, let's look back at the trail of embers and silk. It was a regular evening. Mika and Aya had just finished grabbing some snacks from the convenience store. They strolled through familiar streets, laughing about minor dramas and weekend plans. Neon signs buzzed faintly, and the air smelled of rain lingering on asphalt.
I can't believe we finally have some free time, just walking around.
Yeah, feels like the first normal weekend in ages.
As they passed the small park, thin strands of spider silk caught the light, stretching across a low fence. Mika paused.
Huh, look at this. Spider silk? Already here?
Strange, I don't remember seeing these yesterday.
They continued walking past an old cafe, and then a narrow alley by the apartment block. Each familiar corner now had delicate threads glimmering faintly in the streetlights. The silk was subtle, almost decorative, but too plentiful to be natural.
It's everywhere, across railings, trash cans, even over the street signs.
Feels wrong, like someone, or something, left it intentionally.
Turning into a quieter alley behind an abandoned building, the threads became thicker, denser. Something lay at the base of the stairs, a small form that barely moved.
Is that a cat?
It's not moving. Something's wrong.
The cat was already lifeless, tangled in thick layers of spider silk. Its eyes stared blankly, and faint scorch marks hinted at a violent end. The strands held the body in place, shimmering subtly in the dim light.
Oh no, it's dead! This is bad.
Look at the silk. This isn't just nature. Someone, or something, is leaving these signs.
The air grew colder, the alley darker. Shadows stretched unnaturally along the walls, merging with the glistening threads. The girls realized the presence they had thought they'd left behind was still out there, watching, patient, and hungry.
Last time we saw silk like this. Something was controlling it, moving it.
And now it's everywhere. Feels like it's watching us.
The dead cat lay bound in the thick strands, its body eerily still, yet the silk itself seemed almost alive, quivering faintly as if sensing movement, stretching slowly across corners, stair rails, and trash cans.
Everywhere we go, it's like the threads are following.
Yeah, like it's testing us, seeing what we do next.
The alley seemed to breathe. Shadows shifted at the edge of vision, just beyond recognition. A faint metallic scraping echoed from above, then vanished. Each step they took made the threads quiver. Each glance revealed new glimmers of silk they hadn't noticed before.
I don't like this. The threads aren't random. They lead somewhere or someone.
Then we just have to be careful. Watch every step, every turn.
The alley had transformed from familiar to uncanny. What had seemed like harmless debris moments ago now felt like part of a patient, deliberate design. The night was quiet, but every strand, every shadow whispered that something unseen was moving just out of sight. Mika and Aya moved cautiously along the alley. Every corner, every railing seemed to glimmer with fine silk. What had started as a few scattered threads now formed faint, deliberate patterns, as if guiding or herding them.
These threads, they're almost like a map. I can't tell if it's leading somewhere or keeping us in place.
Feels like we're being watched. Every time we slow down, the threads twitch.
The alley stretched longer than memory served. Shadows deepened, and the faint metallic scrape of silk brushing against metal echoed intermittently, coming from different directions at once. Ahead, a small bundle stirred. A second stray cat, alive but tangled in dense silk, yowled pitifully. Its eyes reflected the dim light, pleading.
Hold on, we'll get you out. Don't struggle.
I don't like this, the silk. It's too precise. feels controlled.
As they reached for the cat, the silk tightened subtly around their hands. Not violently, but with a deliberate, testing pressure. They recoiled, realizing that the threads weren't just for the animals. They were sensing, probing, waiting.
Something's here, but I can't see it. It's like the threads themselves are alive.
And it's patient, watching how we move, what we do next.
The alley seemed to pulse with life. Every trash bin, every railing, every corner reflected tiny glimmers of silk that hadn't been there a moment ago. Faint shadows flickered across walls, sometimes merging with the threads, sometimes vanishing before they could be identified.
It's like it's drawing us in closer to something. I can feel it in the air.
Then we just stay together, watch each other's backs.
The faint sound of a scraping, soft yet deliberate, echoed from above, as if something moved along the stairwell. The threads stretched, some brushing their legs, almost like fingers tracing their path.
We're not safe yet. We have to be careful and ready for whatever's waiting.
The threads converged near the base of a back stairwell behind the building. The air was colder here, a metallic tang mixed with the scent of damp concrete. Every step they took toward the stairwell made the silk vibrate faintly, as if sensing intent.
It's too perfect, too deliberate.
Yeah, something wants us here. And it's waiting.
The alley behind them had faded into shadow. Every sound amplified, the distant hum of the city, the wind rattling loose trash, the subtle quiver of silk threads. The trap was tightening, unseen, patient, and waiting for the moment they would step too close. The stairwell loomed ahead, narrow and dimly lit. Concrete steps glistened faintly from recent rain. Silk threads stretched across the railings and walls, crisscrossing like a web woven with purpose.
Stay close. Every step we take, the threads react.
It feels alive, like it knows we're here.
The further they moved up the stairs, the colder it became. Every shadow seemed longer, stretching unnaturally, merging with the silk. The faint metallic scrape echoed again, this time from above, just out of sight. Halfway up, they noticed the tangled cat, now completely wrapped in glistening silk. It mewled weakly, helpless.
Hang on, we'll get you out.
It's too perfect, almost like it's bait.
As Mika reached for the cat, a shadow flickered across the top of the stairwell. Too fast, too fluid to be human. The air pulsed with anticipation. A subtle vibration that ran along the silk threads.
Something's up there, I can feel it.
And it's watching, waiting for us to move.
Suddenly, a torrent of thick silk shot down from above, wrapping around the steps, railing, and walls. The cat yowled, struggling in Mika's hands. Threads lashed like living things, forcing the two back, separating them slightly.
Watch out! It's strong!
I can't! Everything's moving. It's like it's alive.
From the shadows above, a grotesque, spider-like silhouette emerged. Jorōgumo, half human, half tangled, scarred from the fire. Its face a horrifying blend of flesh and shadow. Its many legs, glistening with silk, scraped the walls, every movement deliberate and predatory.
It's her from before.
And she's worse disfigured, angry.
The silk tightened around the stairwell, forming near impenetrable walls. Mika and Aya ducked and wove between strands, the cat still trembling in Mika's arms. Every movement triggered more threads, lashing out like extensions of the creature itself.
Keep moving, remember last time, fire.
We have to survive this, just like before.
Even without seeing the creature fully, its presence was undeniable. The stairwell had become a living trap, every corner, every thread a test of courage and instinct. Mika and Aya realized the cat was never the target. It was the lure, the threads, the narrow stairwell, the shadows. They were all part of a design, leading them toward the predator waiting above.
It's clever using fear and curiosity against us.
Then we'll have to be smarter, and we know what can stop her.
Above them, a flicker of scarred, spider-like limbs paused, sensing their intentions. The first strike had come, and the true confrontation was only beginning. The stairwell felt narrower than ever. Every step Mika and Aya took echoed loudly, the shadows seeming to stretch toward them. Silk threads shimmered faintly along the walls, like invisible fingers brushing against the damp concrete.
It's close. I can feel it.
Stay sharp. It's moving with us.
From above, a distorted, scarred face emerged in the shadows. a grotesque, spider-like visage, watching, calculating. The camera of the mind's eye could almost frame its huge, twisted head against the dim light, each scarred detail terrifyingly clear. A sudden crack! Sparks flew from a loose, old electrical box. Faint smoke curled from the ceiling, licking the old wood. The creature shrieked and recoiled slightly, its attention now split between the threads and the growing hazard.
Look! Sparks, maybe it's a chance.
But we don't have anything ready. We have to act fast.
That might help, but be careful.
Step back, don't get burned. Just use it to keep her off us.
The fire was tiny, a hazard and a tool at the same time. Its warmth pushed the threads back slightly, giving the girls just enough room to maneuver. Jorōgumo lunged from above, silk whipping violently. Mika and Aya ducked instinctively. The fire spread along the scattered wood, crackling, illuminating the grotesque face of the creature. Its many legs skittered, the smoke curling around its twisted form.
Step back, let the flames do the work.
For a heartbeat, the stairwell was chaos, sparks, silk threads writhing, and the flickering silhouette of the Jorōgumo pinned between shadows and flame. The alley filled with smoke and the scent of charred silk. Shadows danced violently across the walls as the creature writhed, twisting in futile attempts to escape the growing blaze. Jorōgumo's massive head flinched from the fire one last time, then fell limp among the tangled, burning threads. The stairwell grew still, smoke rising lazily, the faint crackle of dying flames the only sound.
It's gone. I think it's finally over.
We made it. Just keep the cat safe.
The stairwell was silent, except for the hiss of embers. The creature's presence had been overwhelming, relentless. But the accidental fire, combined with quick thinking, had finally given them a chance to escape. They leaned against the railings, shaken but alive. The cat, still trembling, looked up at them as if understanding. The shadows had not fully disappeared. Jorōgumo's memory lingered in the twisted threads, but the immediate threat had passed.
Last time, fire saved us, and this time, it almost did it again.
And now we know even small things like a spark can turn the tide. But we can't rely on luck forever.
Suddenly, from below, the stairwell echoed with loud, chaotic voices. Shouts, footsteps, and the distant wail of a fire engine filled the air. The building had drawn attention. Neighbors, passers-by, emergency responders, all converging.
We need to get out. Now!
Move! Don't look back!
Smoke curled along the steps, embers glowing faintly. Every shadow seemed to retreat in the chaos of human presence. With the cat cradled safely, they scrambled down the stairwell, away from the fire and the unseen menace above, disappearing into the night as sirens blared and voices grew louder. Falling for 7 days straight. It was not a storm, just a heavy, gray curtain that seemed to swallow Tokyo whole. The city felt damp, and the air smelled of wet concrete and stagnant water. Mika and Aya were at a small, 24-hour coin laundry near the edge of the city. It was 2 in the morning. The bright fluorescent lights flickered, casting a cold glare on the rows of spinning metal drums. Mika looked at her phone, then at the heavy rain outside the glass door.
It is still not stopping. The news says this is the longest rainfall in 10 years.
Everything feels heavy. My clothes, my hair, even my mind. I think this weather is making everyone depressed.
Aya leaned against a dryer, watching the clothes tumble inside. The rhythmic thumping of the machines was the only sound, until a new noise joined in. A faint, steady dripping. Mika frowned. He looked up at the ceiling, then at the floor. The tiles were dry. The machines were not leaking. But the sound was clear, as if water was hitting a puddle right next to her.
Aya, do you hear that?
The dripping? I thought it was just the rain outside.
Mika pulled out her handheld recorder. She watched the levels on the screen. The needle jumped with every drip, but the sound didn't feel like it was coming from the room. It felt like it was coming from the air itself. Mika walked toward the glass front of the shop. Outside, under the dim street lamp, a figure stood. It was a woman. She wore a long, dark coat and held a black umbrella low over her head. She was standing perfectly still in the middle of the sidewalk, facing the laundry.
Is she waiting for someone? She is soaking wet.
The woman lifted her umbrella just an inch. Even from behind the glass, Mika felt a wave of intense sadness hit her. It was not fear, but a heavy, crushing feeling of loss.
Wait, look at the ground under her feet.
Aya stepped closer. The sidewalk was drenched with rain, but where the woman stood, the water seemed to be swirling, circling her feet like a drain. Suddenly, the woman took a step toward the door. As the woman approached, the temperature inside the laundry dropped. The windows began to fog up instantly. Mika grabbed her camera, but the lens was already covered in a thick, gray mist.
Aya, get back from the door, now!
The automatic door sensors triggered. The door slid open with a mechanical hiss. The woman did not enter. She stopped at the threshold. Water began to pool on the floor, but it was dark, almost like ink. A faint smell of sulfur filled the room.
Mika, look at the wall next to her.
In the corner of the doorway, a tiny crack appeared in the plaster. It was exactly like the one they saw in the apartment. A thin, dark liquid started to seep out of the crack, moving in rhythm with the dripping sound.
She is connected to the stone, just like the others.
The woman in the coat didn't speak. She just stood there, her face hidden by the shadow of her umbrella. She raised a pale hand and pointed toward the back of the laundry, toward the dryers. Then, she whispered,
"It is so cold. Why is he still so cold?"
The lights in the laundry flickered and died, for a second.
Aya, the dryer!
Aya turned and saw one of the large industrial dryers. The glass door was covered in steam. From inside the machine, a small, wet handprint appeared on the glass. Then another. The sound of a child crying began to echo from inside the metal drum.
There is someone inside.
Mika grabbed the dryer handle, but it was ice cold. Her hand stuck to the metal. At the same time, the woman at the door began to glide forward, the black umbrella trailing water like a river.
It is a trap! Aya, the salt and the red beans!
Aya reached into her bag and threw a handful of dried red beans toward the floor. As the beans hit the dark pool of water, they began to hiss and steam. The woman stopped, letting out a long, low moan that sounded like the wind.
Go! Run to the car!
They scrambled out the side exit, bursting into the cold night rain. They didn't stop until they were inside the car with the doors locked. Mika looked back at the laundry. Through the fogged-up windows, she saw the woman standing by the dryer, her hand resting on the glass where the small handprint had been. The rain continued to fall, heavier than before.
She is not just a spirit. She is looking for something she lost in the water.
And the stone is giving her the power to take it from the living.
They sat in the car for a long time, the wipers clicking back and forth.
We need to go to the archives. We need to find out who she was before the rain started.
And we need a way to stay dry. If we get caught in her circle, we might never come back out.
The investigation was no longer just about recording ghosts. It was about survival. Every spirit was a piece of a larger puzzle. And the puzzle was starting to look like a map of a disaster that happened long ago.
Tomorrow, we find the child.
The car pulled away, leaving the laundry behind in the dark. But on the back window of the car, a single, wet handprint slowly began to fade. The next morning did not bring the sun. The rain was still falling, a constant rhythmic beat against the windows of Mika's apartment. The air inside felt heavy and damp, no matter how high they turned up the heat. Mika and Aya sat surrounded by old city maps and digital records. The atmosphere was tense. They both felt the weight of the night before.
I checked the car this morning. The handprint is gone, but the glass is still cold to the touch. It feels like the dampness is following us.
It is not just dampness. It is a lingering energy. I have been scanning the local news archives from 20 years ago. I found something.
Mika turned her laptop screen toward Aya, showed a grainy photograph of a young woman standing by the same riverbank they had visited before. She was holding a small child's hand.
Her name was Hana. 20 years ago, there was a flash flood in this district. It happened late at night. The river rose so fast that the lower streets were underwater in minutes.
Was she the one who vanished?
She tried to save her son. They were near the old laundry area when the water hit. They found her umbrella and her coat a mile downstream, but they never found her son. The case was closed as a tragic accident.
Mika scrolled down to a map of the city's old drainage system.
The legend of the Ame-Onna says she appears when the rain is constant. She is a spirit of sorrow. But look at where the sightings are happening. They are all near the old flood path.
And now, with the stone fragments active, her sorrow is turning into something physical. She is looking for her son in the reflections of the water.
Mika stood up and walked to a corner of the room where several boxes were stacked. She had spent the early morning gathering equipment.
The Jorōgumo taught us one thing. We cannot just act on instinct. We need to control the environment.
What is all this?
Industrial-grade desiccant packs, high-powered dehumidifiers, and these.
Mika held up 2 high-intensity thermal lamps, the kind used for drying paint or construction materials.
The Ame-Onna exists within the moisture. If we can create a zone of absolute dryness, she cannot manifest. It is like a barrier.
A circle of salt is traditional, but a circle of dry air is practical.
Exactly. We are going back to that laundry tonight. We are not going to wait for her to find us. We are going to clear the air and see if we can guide her to the truth.
Aya helped Mika pack the gear into the back of the car. They moved with a new sense of purpose. They were no longer just 2 girls with cameras. They were becoming technicians of the supernatural.
Mika, about the child's handprint in the dryer. What if he is really trapped there?
Spirits like this often repeat their final moments. He is not a person anymore. He is a memory caught in a loop. To stop the rain, we have to break the loop.
Aya reached into her pocket and pulled out a small, old toy. It was a wooden whistle she had found in a second-hand shop.
I read that spirits are attracted to things they recognize. If we can lead the child out, the mother might follow.
It is a risk, but it is better than just burning things down again.
They drove back through the flooded streets. The water on the road was getting deeper. People were staying indoors, their lights dimmed against the gray sky. As they pulled up to the laundry, the building looked like a ghost ship in the mist. The fluorescent lights inside were still dead.
Set up the dehumidifiers at the entrance. Place the thermal lamps facing the back dryers.
And the red beans?
Keep them in your pocket. Only use them if the dryness fails.
They stepped out of the car. The moment their feet touched the ground, the dripping sound returned. But this time, Mika didn't look afraid. She reached for the power switch on the first dehumidifier.
Let us see how she likes the desert.
The machines hummed to life. The battle between the water and the heat was about to begin. The laundry was dark, but the red status lights of the industrial dehumidifiers glowed like small, angry eyes. As the machines roared to life, the air began to change. The thick, damp feeling started to lift, replaced by a dry, artificial heat. Mika and Aya stood in the center of the room, surrounded by the thermal lamps. The orange glow made the shadows on the walls look long and sharp.
The humidity is dropping fast. Look at the windows.
The thick fog on the glass doors was receding, turning into tiny droplets that raced down the pane. Outside, the rain was still a heavy wall of water, but inside, they had created a pocket of dry reality.
It feels like the room is fighting back. The air is so thin.
Suddenly, the dripping sound returned, but it was different this time. It was faster, more erratic. The woman in the black umbrella appeared at the glass door. She tried to step forward, but as her foot touched the threshold where the dry air met the wet night, a cloud of steam erupted. She let out a low, vibrating hiss. Her umbrella trembled.
It is working. She cannot cross the dry zone. The moisture she needs to manifest is being stripped away.
The woman circled the building, her figure blurring in and out of the rain. She was looking for a gap, a leak, any way to bring her damp world inside. Then, the back dryer, the one with the small handprint, began to shake. The metal door of the dryer rattled violently. A muffled, watery crying sound echoed from within. It sounded like someone was trying to breathe underwater.
Mika, the machine is leaking.
Dark, cold water began to seep out from the edges of the dryer door. It was fighting the heat of the thermal lamps. The floor was becoming slick again.
Aya, the whistle! Do it now!
Aya pulled out the old wooden whistle. Her hands were shaking. She blew into it, a short, clear note that cut through the roar of the machines.
Haina, your son is here. They are not trying to take him. We are trying to let him go.
The woman at the glass door stopped. She turned her head toward the sound of the whistle. Her pale hand reached out, pressing against the glass. The glass began to crack under her touch. At the same time, the water leaking from the dryer started to form the shape of a small child, reaching out toward the door.
The heat is not enough. The connection is too strong. Aya, the red beans and the incense!
Mika grabbed a bottle of high-proof alcohol and sprayed a circle around the leaking dryer, then lit it. A ring of blue flame erupted. Aya threw the red beans into the fire. The smell of burning grain and sulfur filled the air.
Hana, look at him. He is not cool anymore.
The child shape in the water seemed to stabilize. The blue fire was providing a different kind of warmth. A ritual heat. The glass door finally shattered. But instead of a violent entry, the woman simply glided in, her umbrella falling to the floor. As she entered the circle of dry air and blue flame, her dark coat began to fade. She was no longer a shadow. For a brief second, she looked like the woman in the photograph, Hana. She reached out and touched the water child. As their hands met, the dark water turned clear, then evaporated into a fine mist.
Thank you. It was so long, so dark.
A blinding flash of white light filled the laundry. Mika and Aya shielded their eyes. When they looked again, the room was empty. The machines were silent. The blue fire had died out. The floor was completely dry.
Is it over?
Mika looked at her handheld sensor. The levels were flat. The energy was gone. Outside, for the first time in a week, the sound of the rain had stopped. A single star was visible through a gap in the clouds.
For now. But we need to check the stone.
Mika walked over to the doorway, where the woman had first appeared. The crack in the wall was still there. She held up her camera and zoomed in. Inside the crack, deep in the shadows of the building's foundation, was a small, jagged piece of dark, glass-like stone. It was pulsing with a faint, purple light.
This is why they are coming back. The stone is not just a battery, it is a beacon.
If we leave it there, something else will come.
Then we take it with us.
Mika used a pair of insulated pliers to pull the fragment from the wall. As the stone touched the metal, a cold shiver ran through her arm. The investigation was moving to a new stage. They were no longer just observers. They were collectors of the fragments that were breaking the world. Subscribe to Whispers Beyond Archives. The rain has stopped, but the shadows are still long. What happens when the fragments are gathered? Tell us, what have you seen in the dark? Central Hospital was a labyrinth of white corridors and fluorescent hums. It was 3 a.m. In the basement, the morgue and the isolation ward sat in a heavy, unnatural silence. Mika and Aya were not there for a patient. They were there because the fragment of the killing stone in Mika's pocket had begun to vibrate. It was a rhythmic, low-frequency hum, like a tuning fork struck against a tombstone.
The stone is reacting to something here. It is like it is calling out to something in the basement.
The air smells like burning rubber and ozone. Mika, look at the security monitors.
They were standing in the security office, staring at a bank of screens. Every camera in the basement ward was cycling through static, then flashing a single, recurring image. A massive, dark shape moving on all fours, trailing streaks of embers that seemed to carve deep gouges into the tiled floors. Suddenly, one of the monitors showed a nurse walking down the hall. A blur of movement dropped from the ceiling. Not a jump, but a streak of liquid fire. In the blink of an eye, the nurse slumped to the floor, her expression frozen in a look of absolute vacancy.
Where did her shadow go?
Mika zoomed in on the footage. The nurse was breathing, but her body was empty. The shadow on the floor had detached itself and was now flowing toward the ventilation shafts like ink in water.
It is not attacking the body, it is harvesting the consciousness. It is a Kasha, a collector of the departed.
They raced toward the isolation ward. As they exited the elevator, the lights exploded one by one, showering them in glass. The darkness was total, save for the faint, flickering purple glow emanating from Mika's pocket. From the end of the hall they heard it, a sound like heavy, metallic claws scraping against the linoleum, accompanied by a low, guttural purr that sounded like a combustion engine misfiring.
It knows we have the fragment. It thinks it is a prize.
A shape emerged from the shadows. It was the size of a tiger, but its fur was a chaotic mess of charred silk and glowing cinders. It had no face, only a gaping maw that leaked thick, black smoke. It didn't walk. It rolled forward with a predatory mechanical grace, leaving a trail of scorched, circular tire marks on the floor.
Aya, get behind the lead-lined doors of the X-ray room, now!
The creature lunged. It didn't howl. It screamed with the sound of 1,000 grinding gears. As it passed, the air scorched the walls, leaving the smell of a funeral pyre. They barely dived through the door as the heavy steel slammed shut, the creature's claws leaving deep, burning gouges in the metal.
We are trapped, but we are shielded. Now, we just have to figure out how to stop a creature made of fire and gears.
Inside the darkened X-ray room, the silence was back, but now it was punctuated by the rhythmic scraping of the creature outside.
The Kasha is attracted to death, but it is starving. It is using the stone's energy to hunt faster than it ever could.
We have to starve it. If we can isolate the stone's signal, maybe it will lose interest.
Mika looked at her tools, the insulated pliers, a lead-lined bag, and a high-frequency jamming device she had built for the previous case.
This is not just an investigation anymore. We are hunting a predator that is hunting us.
Outside the door, the creature began to purr again. The metal of the door was starting to glow a dull, dangerous red. The funeral thief was waiting, and it was getting hungry. The X-ray room was shielded with lead, creating a dead zone that slightly muffled the creature's purr. Outside, the Kasha was pacing. Every time it brushed against the steel door, the surface groaned, the metal warping under intense, localized heat. Mika pulled the lead-lined bag from her tactical vest. She carefully slipped the glowing stone fragment inside, sealing it tight.
The signal is weak now, but it is not gone. It can still smell the energy in the room.
We cannot stay here. If it breaches the door, we are dead. Mika, look at the supply closet.
Aya pointed to a rack of liquid nitrogen canisters used for cryotherapy and tissue preservation. A cold, white vapor drifted from the safety valves.
If it is made of fire and smoke, what happens if we freeze the air around it?
Mika's eyes lit up. She moved to the supply closet and grabbed 2 high-pressure nitrogen nozzles. She rigged them to the main pipe, creating a makeshift cold fire cannon.
It is a gamble. We have to draw it in, wait for it to lunge, and hit the core.
How do we draw it in? It knows the stone is in this room.
We don't need the stone. We need to trick it.
Mika took her handheld recorder and looped the sound of the stone's rhythmic, pulsing hum. She placed the speaker near the vent, away from their position.
Aya, get ready. When it lunges for the speaker, hit the release valve.
They waited. The scratching at the door stopped. The hallway became deathly quiet. Click. The lock began to glow white-hot as the creature melted the mechanism. The door swung open with a shriek of tortured steel. The Kamisha flowed into the room, a swirling vortex of embers and shadow. It ignored them, its burning eyes fixing on the speaker in the corner. It opened its massive, smoky jaw, ready to inhale the energy.
Now!
Aya slammed the release valve. A jet of liquid nitrogen blasted through the room, hitting the creature's core. The sound was deafening, the shriek of a steam engine being plunged into ice. The creature's fire flickered, turned blue, then sputtered. It didn't roar, it whistled, a sound of escaping pressure. The Kasha whipped its tail, hitting the wall with the force of a wrecking ball. The creature was no longer a fluid ghost. It was hardening, its form turning into jagged, frosted glass and cooling slag.
It is not dead, but it is locked. Aya, the containment bag.
Mika rushed forward, dodging a spray of cooling embers. She slapped a containment seal, a specialized device they had been working on, onto the creature's frozen, chest-like center. The seal hummed, pulling the chaotic energy of the Kasha into a controlled vacuum. The creature's form collapsed, shrinking until it was nothing more than a charred, metal-like orb. The room was covered in a layer of frost. The heat was gone. Aya collapsed against the wall, her breath visible in the cold air. Mika stared at the orb on the floor. It was silent. The rhythmic purr had ceased.
We caught it. But look at the stone fragment.
Mika opened the lead-lined bag. The fragment inside was no longer pulsing purple. It was glowing a bright, angry red, and the lead lining was starting to melt.
It didn't just attract the Kasha. It fed off the fight. Every time we encounter these things, the stone grows stronger.
We are not just cleaning up after monsters, Mika. We are fueling a chain reaction.
They looked at each other, the weight of their discovery settling in. They had stopped the funeral thief, but the path ahead was becoming increasingly dangerous.
We need to get out of here before the hospital security notices the damage. And we need to find a way to stop the stone from growing.
They packed their gear, the charred orb safely tucked away. As they walked out of the hospital, the rain began to fall again. The same rain from the night at the laundry. The city was not safe. And the archives were far from complete. The ride back to Mika's apartment was silent. The city lights blurred into streaks of red and yellow against the rain-slicked windows. Mika held the lead-lined bag on her lap. Even through the thick shielding, she could feel a rhythmic throb like a heartbeat that wasn't hers.
The orb. Is it still active?
It is dormant, but the stone fragment inside the bag? It is vibrating at a frequency I have never seen.
Mika opened the bag just a crack. The light inside was no longer purple. It was a searing, brilliant white, flickering like a dying fluorescent bulb. It was hungry, and it had tasted the energy of the Kasha. They reached the apartment building. The lobby was empty, the air stagnant. Mika and Aya walked to the elevator, their exhaustion showing in their stiff movements. As the elevator doors opened, Mika stopped.
What is it?
Look at the floor.
There, in the center of the elevator, was a single, fresh, charred tire track. A perfect circle of burnt rubber and ash. It was exactly like the marks the Kasha had left in the hospital.
But we contained it. The orb is in the bag.
Then it wasn't the Kasha that left this.
Mika stepped into the elevator, her hand gripping her tactical light. As the doors closed, she noticed a small note pinned to the wall. It was a business card, crisp and white, standing out against the dingy elevator walls. There was no name, only a symbol. A stylized fox mask, split down the middle by a jagged line.
Who would know we were at the hospital? Who would leave this?
Someone who has been watching the stone. Someone who knows exactly what we are doing.
Back in the apartment, they set the containment orb on their desk. Mika turned on her computer and opened the Whisper Beyond Archives master file. She began to overlay the map of the Katisha's path with the map of the city's power grid.
The path isn't random. It's a geometry.
It is not just a collection of monsters. It is a ritual. Every time we defeat one, we are clearing the board for something larger to take its place.
Mika looked at the fox mask symbol on the business card. She typed it into the database. A single file popped up, dated 3 decades ago. It was a report from a defunct government research facility titled Project Seshoseki.
We are not the first ones to find these fragments. The people who came before us, they didn't just want to stop them.
What did they want?
They wanted to wake the source.
Outside, the rain finally stopped. The city was still, holding its breath. Mika turned off her desk lamp, leaving only the faint, ominous glow of the stone fragment illuminating their faces.
From now on, we are not just investigating. We are being hunted.
Are you going to keep going?
Until we find who left that card. Because if they have the rest of the fragments, they have the power to tear the world apart.
The stone pulsed once, a blinding flash that filled the room. Then, it went dark. The hunt for the truth had just become a race against the end. Subscribe to Whispers Beyond Archives. The Fox Mask is watching. Are you next on the list? Tonight, we bring you the complete chronological investigation of these 3 cases. Watch how the patterns emerge, and how a hidden organization began to step out of the shadows. Before we dive back into the darkness, make sure to like this video and subscribe. We are piecing together a ritual that was never meant to be completed. Your support is the only thing keeping these archives open. Now, let's look back at the trail of embers and silk. 3 cases, 3 fragments, a package. But the mystery of the fox mask only deepens. As Mika and Aya consolidate their findings, they've realized that capturing these entities wasn't the end, it was a catalyst. The air in the office is changing. The fragments are pulsing in unison now. And the next signal? It's coming from a place no one dares enters after sunset. If you've watched all 3 cases tonight, you are now part of the Whispers Beyond Archives inner circle. Which of these 3 legends terrified you the most? Tell us in the comments. We read every single one. Don't forget to check out the full Hyakki Yagyō playlist linked on your screen to catch up on any missed chapters. Stay dry, stay shielded, and whatever you do, do not follow the red lights in the fog. We will see you very soon.